I'm sorry I cannot join you for the live presentation today, live discussion. But well, here's my presentation, and I hope you all get something from it. So, well, my name is David, and I've been working in the U.S. for the last 3 or 4 years. A little bit about me: I studied in the Technical Architecture School of Seville in Spain. Then I moved on to the National Architecture School of Paris in 2015, where I finished my degree and I started working in a architecture interior design firm there, to end up going back to my hometown for a job opportunity, and for some family reasons I ended up relocating to the US. Worked in Indianapolis for a little more than a year, and came back to where I live right now, which is in Chicago, working for PYR for the past 2 years, which is an interior design studio within Perkins and Will, Chicago. So we're here to talk about a myth about the architecture practice that a lot of people believes, and it's that you need to be an artist in order to be an architect. So from what I've learned in between Spain and France, actually, is that in Spain, an architecture degree is mostly considered like an engineering degree. So it takes 5 years and a half to get what would be the equivalent of a bachelor plus master of architecture, and it is pretty technical. We have a lot of physics and math, a lot of structure calculation. While on the other hand, in France, it was a very artistic kind of degree. You could have sculpture and painting classes, which was actually pretty nice to see both sides of the European spectrum. Uh, so in many cases in France, it's believed, even more so than in the US, that an architect is an artist, and in so many ways, it is like that. But as a general rule, and from what I saw, even in France, in my professional experience, is that an architect most of the time wasn't an artist, and for many reasons, there's so much that it's involved within the practice that uh, it's out of the scope for what we usually think of as an artist, right? This is one of the projects I worked on last in the firm I was at in Chicago. So what I wanted to show with this facade, this is a building renovation for a restaurant, is that there's a lot of creativity involved in this design, and there's definitely a lot of artistic um, goals that we're trying to achieve as architects many times, right? So, but there's also a lot of logical thinking involved into this, and about how the spaces are gonna work, and all that. But yeah, this is, for example, another getting closer to the technical side of things. This is freehand drafting of sections for um, closing the intersection between a bus station and the river. Some project that I was working on for a competition, and these sections, despite the aesthetics of the project were important, they are not as important as just making it work, right? And getting to your architectural goals or urban planning goals in this case. This is actually the same project for the facade you guys just saw. And this is a space planning exercise. You need to make sure that the kitchen works, that it can serve the restaurant, that the restroom is ADA compliant, you know, that the FF&E is chosen correctly, so all the chairs and the tables, they all work correctly. So there's a lot of problem solving, a lot of decision making that needs to be put into play to solve a project, even if it's a small project like this. And getting even more technical, this is one of the small projects I worked when I was in Indianapolis, and this is an elevator added to seems very simple, right? It's an elevator that's added to a building, but there's a lot of detail involved in it that, well, it's an architect's job to do, you know. And getting even less artistic, how this is a spec writing or spec reviewing too. I was working with a consultant in getting all the specs written for some installation in a playground. So all this to say that, yeah, an architect is not an artist. There's so much involved. There's the creativity, yes, but there's also a lot of analytical skills to analyze what's there. Like in the case of the river, you need to see what's there and you need to start drawing, um, solving the problems. Now there's a lot of organizational skills that are required, not only to organize your project, but to organize all the elements that go into what's the design of the project. So there's a lot of problem solving. There's a lot of decision making, as I've already mentioned. There's a process innovation, as in the industry we are, especially in the 21st century, we are really forced to innovate all the time, like going into BIM processes and integrated project delivery, which actually requires a lot of communication skills to be able to communicate with all the parties that are involved in the design and the building process, which obviously requires a lot of time management. And finally, accreditation to be an architect in the US and in most Western countries, you need to be accredited. So, as far as I know, to be an artist, you don't need to. So, that's my conclusion. Well, thank you very much, all, and feel free to reach out with any questions or connect with me on LinkedIn. Thank you, guys.